Look, you set some records this quarter, first profitable quarter ever, this on the back of incredible growth over the last year. But then this very cautious outlook, which clearly investors are reacting to. How could so much have changed?
Well, I think that what we're seeing is a couple things. Number one, we have a tough comp against Q2 of last year because a lot of bookings last year were pushed to Q2 because of Omicron. Additionally, we are seeing some pricing pressure in North America on affordability. But I do think that ultimately we're feeling generally very bullish about the road ahead for us on Airbnb. And I think the key is going to be affordability. What we're hearing from travelers, and what I said, of course, within your program last week, is that the number one thing that travelers care about is affordability. And that's why we launched things like Airbnb Rooms, an all-new take on the original Airbnb. The average price per night for an offering like that is $67 a night. So long as we keep adding hosts, I will say our host growth has been accelerating every quarter since it's been public. It's now growing 18% year over year. If we make sure we have enough great supply, I think there's not a limit to the number of people that could seek out a great accommodation by staying at a home.
And yet, travel has been a priority, of course, coming out of the pandemic. And I just wonder if more and more people are going to say, look, maybe we just shouldn't take that trip right now. Folks are getting laid off. Rates are going up. Traveling is expensive. How would you describe your level of caution, if you will?
Well, I mean, I always want to be cautious. We really want to, exceed people's expectations. And so that's part of what the outlook was trying to do, is just try to make sure that we manage people's expectations. At the same time, I think people still want to travel. What we've seen is Airbnb is a super resilient model. We have nearly every type of space, in nearly every community, at nearly every price point, and that no matter what the economy does, people want to travel. But if you mentioned, if flights cost more, people don't have more money, they have to offset that by seeking cheaper accommodations. And that's why affordability is going to be so important going into this peak travel season.
That's exactly what happened to me a couple weeks ago. I went to Austin for the MotoGP. Our plane tickets were unbelievably expensive. And my wife said, listen, let's do an Airbnb instead of a hotel because we can save, half the price. Nonetheless, we see analysts coming out today and saying they're worried about your execution. Morgan Stanley says competitive risk and share loss to booking is also continuing. How do you feel about your market share?
Well, we're not seeing any loss to booking or other competitors. I mean, I think the one thing I'll just say is we are double the size as we were before the pandemic. There is no other travel company in our industry that is even close to that level of recovery. And so I'm feeling really great about our level of execution. We've innovated more than I think any other company in travel in the last couple of years, 340 upgrades to our service in the last 2 years, including 53 last week. So we're just going to continue to stay heads down, continue to make sure we have great homes with great support at great prices.
Long-term stays, Brian, are also moderating. And of course, as people go back to the office, on top of this general, potential more travel pullback, does that category face a risk?
No, I think that we are now in a kind of post-pandemic equilibrium. We are still much larger than before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, about 13% of our nights booked were long-term stays. It's now 18%. I think what the pandemic did is it accelerated a lot of adoption of monthly stays. But I think flexibility is here to stay. Even with people going back to the office, they still want to be flexible. And I think with the new features we launched last week, we now allow monthly stays to be more affordable. You can now pay by bank account. People have more monthly discounts. I think you're going to see a lot more adoption of monthly stays in the years to come.
Now, you've teased a lot about how AI and ChatGPT are going to be integrated into Airbnb. Can you paint the picture, a little brighter for us? What does Airbnb and the experience look like 5 years from now? How do you use this technology to deal with some of these, fluctuating issues around pricing and demand and, companies like airline prices and hotel prices that you can't necessarily control?
I think there's a few things we're going to do. I think the grandest vision is that we build these large language models into our application, a model like GPT-4 or in the future, a subsequent model. And then we're going to be tuning the models based on our data and our customer information. And I would like Airbnb to know more about our customers than any other travel company. So instead of going to Airbnb and asking, where are you going and when are you going, we'd ask you a simple question, like who are you and what do you want? And we're going to build the most robust profiles. And then we're going to be in the business of matching you. Imagine Airbnb Airbnb is like the ultimate AI concierge, and we're going to develop these really new, interesting multimodal interfaces where we can match you to exactly what you want, maybe even beyond travel. I also think we're going to be able to level the playing field with hotels from a customer service standpoint, because at Airbnb we don't have a front desk, but imagine with the power of AI, we can now anticipate your needs and provide solutions for you in seconds, not even minutes or hours. And I think that will provide better service, level the playing field, because the biggest strength of Airbnb is it's one of a kind. The biggest weakness of Airbnb historically is it's one of a kind. It can sometimes be less consistent than a hotel. And so I think AI can both better match you, provide a much more bespoke experience that's personalized, and provide even better service.
Now, let's go global. How would you describe the appetite for travel in the US versus Latin America versus Europe versus APAC versus China? Are you seeing that caution show up differently in some places than others?
Yeah, North America is weaker than every other market. I think Europe is strong. Asia Pacific is very strong. Latin America is strong. And again, North America is not weak. It's just not growing as fast as the other markets. And maybe some of this is just the rising cost of travel in North America and the fact that it recovered faster than other markets like Asia Pacific. So you're seeing a lot of pent-up demand in Asia and borders finally reopening. So we're seeing a lot of growth internationally.